Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Right. So we have to continue with the method number 5, which is asangahitena asangahita. So last week we did one state of inquiry, one type of state of inquiry, which was the Rupakanda, the matter aggregate. So today our plan is to complete the rest and explain you all some facts from the commentary. So that's what we are going to do today.
好，今天呢，我们将继续第五法的内容。上节课呢，老师为大家讲解了以鲁巴坎达开头的第五法的经文的解读的方式。今天呢，将继续延续接下来的内容，并且呢，也会结合译注的内容给大家加以解释。
Yes. So we'll start with the Vedana Kanda. So the Pali says, Vedana Kandena Yedhamma, Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita, Te Dhamme Yedhamma, Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita, Te Dhamma, Katihi Kandehi, Katihi Ayatanehi, Katihi Dhatuhi Asangahita, Te Dhamma, Dvihi Kandehi, Ekadasahayataneh Sattarasahi Dhatuhi Asangahita. So for this Pali, we have the state of inquiry as the Vedana Kanda. So Vedana Kanda means the feeling aggregate, right? Feeling aggregate, which means the feeling mental factor, right? The mental factor of feeling. So we have to get the Yedhamma for this. So first one is Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, which means unclassified using the classification of aggregates, that is matter, perception, mental formations, consciousness, and Nibbana. Right? So then we move into the next one, which is Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, that is the unclassified using the bases. So we have to consider the feeling aggregate Vedana Kandena, and then you have to consider all these dhammas from here as well, which came from the Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, and then move to the Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita. So from that, now we know the Vedana Kandena, which is the feeling aggregate, and it is included in the ideation base. So matter, they are together with the feeling aggregate, right? I'm sorry, from the matter, from this matter, 16 subtle matter, right? The 16 subtle matter, they belong to the ideation base. And the 12 gross matter, they belong to the other 10 gross bases. So because of this factor, we only consider this gross matter only. We consider this gross matter, only that part, because these 16 subtle matter are classified in the ideation base together with the feeling aggregate. So we only consider the gross matter. Then for the perception, we don't take it. Okay, we'll write it here. The gross matter. And for perception, we don't take it because it's also in the ideation base. Regarding the mental factors, mental formations also the same. They are in the ideation base together with the feeling aggregate. So it's classified by the classification of bases. We have to take the consciousness because it's in the mind base, right? Take the consciousness. And Nibbana also we cannot take because it's included in the ideation base, right? So it's classified using the feeling aggregate. So we don't take it as well. So we move to the Dhatu Sangahina Asangahita. Dhatu Sangahina Asangahita, unclassified using the classification of bases. So here also the same set of dhammas which comes, right? So it is the gross matter and the consciousness, right? So those are the Yedhamma, the first Yedhamma for this state of inquiry. Yes.
好，那么我们来看一下接下来的第194段的经文。这里呢，所探究的主题是维达那坎达，是受孕。那接下来基于受孕来去以非摄的方式得到第一个耶达玛是什么呢？首先以孕摄、非摄的方式去进行判断。我们先要看到受孕，它以孕而言呢，包含在受孕之中；非摄以触摄、非摄的方式进行判断。首先，对于受孕而言，它属于哪一种的触呢？它属于法触。非摄与法触的触呢，是剩下的11种触。上述的4种蕴和涅槃，哪些包含在法触之中呢？我们得到，在上述的4种蕴里面，色蕴的12种粗色，它是包含在剩下的11种触里面的10种粗的色触。再有呢，这4种蕴里面的10蕴呢，它也可以被包含在异触之中。所以呢，我们得到12种的粗色，它可以被归纳在10种的粗触之中。10蕴呢，可以被归纳在异触之中。那我们就得到如果以触摄、非摄的方式来去进行归纳，我们得到在此呢是12种的粗色和所有的10蕴。那接下来以戒摄、非摄的方式来去进行判断。首先，受孕它可以被归纳在法界之中。非摄与法界的内容呢，是剩下的17种戒。我们刚刚得到的12种粗色和10蕴呢，它可以被包含在17种戒之中。12种粗色隶属于10种的粗的戒，10蕴呢，则可以被归纳在7种的10戒之中。因此，我们得到第一个耶达玛的内容呢，就是12种的粗色和所有的10蕴。OK，本队。
Yes. So this Yedhamma, the first Yedhamma, becomes the subject of the second part of the question, right? It becomes the Tehi Dhammihi. So Tehi Dhammihi Yedhamma Kanda Sangahena Asangahita. So from those states, you have to take the Dhammas which are unclassified using the classification of elements. So what are those Dhammas, right? So we have the gross matter and the consciousness here. So we have the feeling aggregate, then we have the perception, and then we have the mental formations, and we have the That's all, right? Yeah, and we have the Nibbana as well. So that becomes the Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, unclassified, using the classification of the aggregates, right? So then we move to the next one, Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, which means unclassified using the classification of bases. So we have to consider this set of dhammas: feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. And also we have to consider gross matter and the consciousness. So the gross matter and consciousness, when you take them, the gross matter is classified in the 10 gross bases, and the consciousness is classified in the mind base. So the same set of dhammas, feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana, become ayatana sangahena sangahita, asangahita, unclassified, using the classification of bases, right? So write it small. Perception, mental formations, nibbana. So this same set of dhammas, become the dhatu sangahena sangahita, unclassified, using the classification of elements, right? So get the same dhammas here, right? Feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. So that become the yedhamma, the second yedhamma. This becomes the second yedhamma. Yes.
我们来看一下第二个问题。首先，在这里的 Dehidame 是我们刚刚所得到的第一个一达嘛，它的内容呢，即是12种的粗色和所有的时运。好，那接下来当它作为被探究的法之时，我们要去得到第二个叶达嘛的内容。首先以运色、非色。那在这里，上述的12种色和时运，它属于哪一种的？哪些运呢？它们属于色运和时运。非摄于这两种运，那即是剩下的受运、想运和行运。那并且呢，还包含有涅槃内容在其中所以呢在这里我们透过坎达三个黑达、阿三个黑达得到的内容呢是受运、想运、行运和涅槃。那接下来以触摄、非摄的方式来去进行判断我们首先要考虑Dehidame 的内容12种色和时运，它以处而言，它包含在哪些处呢？它们包含在10种的粗的色处和异处。阿三嘎黑达非摄于这11种的处是哪些的处呢？即是剩下的法处。上述的受想行和涅槃哪些包含在法处之中呢？所有的受想行运和涅槃包含在法处。那再接下来以戒摄非摄，那首先Dehidame 12种色和时运包含在哪些的戒呢？它们被包含在10种的粗的色戒，还有呢7种的时戒。那非摄于这上述的17种戒，即是法戒。对于刚刚我们所得到的受运、想运、行运和涅槃，哪些可以被包含在法戒呢？我们最终得到答案呢是所有的这些受运、想运、行运和涅槃它是包含在法戒之中。因此我们得到第二个耶达嘛那些法 B 等诸法的内容呢即是受运、想运、行运和涅槃。Okay, Pandey.
Yes. So now we move to the third part of the question, which is te dhamma katihi kandehi katihi ayatanehi katihi dhatui asangahita. So te dhamma becomes the same set of dhammas: feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. So the question, okay. So the question, it says katihi kandehi katihi ayatanehi katihi dhatu, which means under how many aggregates, under how many bases, under how many elements are those states unclassified, right? So then the answer states te dhamma, those states are unclassified in dvihi kandehi, which means two aggregates, right? So what are those two aggregates? So we have feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. So there is the matter, right? matter aggregate and the consciousness aggregate, right? So Dhikande means those two aggregates. Then we have Ekadasa Hayatane, which means under 11 bases. So now under 11 bases, which means now we have the feeling, perception, mental formations, and Nibbana here, right? So that becomes the Te Dhamma. So we know all these Dhammas, feeling, perception, mental formations, and Nibbana, they are classified in the ideation base. So because of that, the other 11 bases, they become the bases which these Dhammas are unclassified. So this becomes excluding ideation base, excluding the ideation base, right? So the 11 bases excluding the ideation base. So that's how we get the answer for here. The other part is also easy. Sattara Dhatu. Sattara Dhatu means that under 17 elements. So what are those 17? Again, it's the same, excluding the ideation base, right? So the elements excluding the ideation element, right? So we write it here, excluding ideation element, right? So that's how we get the answer for this second group. Yes.
好，我们来看第三个问题。我们得到的第二个一达嘛，它的内容呢是受蕴、想蕴、行蕴和涅槃。我们来看第三个问题呢 ，day 达嘛，这里的 day 达嘛呢，指代的就是第二个耶达嘛，它的内容呢就是受蕴、想蕴、行蕴和涅槃。问题是，这些法它们非摄于哪些的蕴处界呢？那答案是它们非摄于2种的蕴、11种的处、17种的界。哪2种的蕴呢？那受想行蕴和涅槃，它非摄于色蕴和识蕴。那哪11种处呢？那它非摄于10种的粗的色处和法处，非摄于17种的界，也就是除了法界之外，剩下的17种的界。OK， 班长。
Yes. So, if you have any questions, you all can ask.
那大家有什么问题吗？
It's okay. Seems like there are no questions. Yes. Things are quite easy now, right? Right. So we move to the group number 3, the third group. The state of inquiry is Vijnana Khandena, which means the consciousness aggregate. So the question, it says Vijnana Khandena ye dhamma khanda sangahena asangahita ayatana sangahena asangahita dhatu sangahena asangahita tehi dhamme ye dhamma khanda sangahena asangahita ayatana sangahena asangahita dhatu sangahena asangahita te dhamma katihi khandehi katihi ayatanehi katihi dhatuhi asangahita te dhamma chatuhi khandehi ekadasa ayatanehi ekadasahi dhatuhi asangahita. So the Vijnana Khanda, which means the consciousness, right? Consciousness aggregate. Right? So in other words, we can say 89, 89 consciousness, right? So then we have to get the Ye Dhamma for this one, right? So Khanda Sangahena Asangahita means unclassified using the classification of aggregates. So what are these dhammas? What are dhammas which are applicable? Right? We have the something is not right. We have the matter aggregate, we have the feeling aggregate, we have the perception aggregate, we have the mental formations, and also we have the Nibbana as well, right? So that becomes the Khandha Sanghahena Asangahita. So now we move to the next one, which is the Ayatana Sanghahena Asangahita. So Ayatana Sanghahena Asangahita means unclassified using the classification of bases. So we know the consciousness aggregate, it belongs to the mind base. So it's a standalone classification, right? So there are no other dhammas which belong to here. So all the dhammas which comes from here, from Khandha Sanghahena Asangahita, belong to the Ayatana Sanghahena Asangahita. Right? So we have the matter, feeling, perception, mental formation, and Nibbana here. Right? So which is the Ayatana Sanghahena Asangahita. So regarding the Dhatu Sanghahena Asangahita, also it's the same. It's easy because we know the consciousness aggregate, the 89 consciousness, they are classified under 7 mind elements. So they are again standalone classification. There are no other dhammas which are classified together with these 7 mind elements, right? So because of that, all the dhammas which came here, matter, feeling, mental formations, perception, mental formations, and Nibbana, they become Dhatu Sanghahena Sanghahita too, right? So write it here. Have the matter, feeling, perception, mental formation, and Nibbana. So become the Dhatu Sanghahena Sanghahita, which is the first Dhamma, right? The first Dhamma. Yes, also.
我们看一下接下来的第3组的法，以Vijñāna Khandha为代表。那这里所探究的法呢是时运，时运的以究竟法的方式，我们来去理解呢，它的内容包含有89种的心。那接下来以非摄的方式，我们来基于时运得到耶达玛的那些法的内容是哪些呢？首先以运摄非摄的方式，我们来去判断。那时运它如果以运摄属于哪一种运呢？就是时运。那非摄于时运，我们得到那些法可以是哪些呢？即是除了时运之外，剩下的4种运：色运、受运、想运、行运，加上涅盘。好，在得到这些法之后，我们再以处摄非摄的方式呢，进一步的判断。首先，时运属于哪一种的处呢？时运属于意处，非摄于意处的处有哪些呢？其实除了意处之外，剩下的11种的处。那么上述我们刚刚得到的4种的运和涅盘，哪些属于这11种的处呢？我们看到所有的这些色运、受运、想运、行运和涅盘呢，都可以被包含在这11种处之中。好，那在得到这些法之后，再以戒摄非摄的方式来去判断。首先，时运属于哪些戒呢？时运，它属于70戒，非摄于70戒呢，我们得到是剩下的11种戒，即是10种的粗的色戒和法戒。那刚刚得到的色、受、想、行运和涅盘，哪些法可以被包含在这11种戒之中呢？我们得到所有的都可以被归纳在这11种戒之中。因此，我们得到第一个耶达玛的内容呢，即是4种的运：色运、受运、想运、行运以及涅盘。OK， 本队。
Yes. Yes. So now we move to the second part of the question, which is Tehi Dhamme Yedhamma Khandha Sanghahena Asangahita. So Yedhamma, the first Yedhamma becomes the subject of the second part of the question. Then we get the Khandha Sanghahena Asangahita. Khandha Sanghahena Asangahita means unclassified using the classification of the aggregates. So this set of dhammas, right? Matter, feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. So we have the 4 aggregates here and the nibbana here, except for the consciousness aggregate. So Khandha Sanghayana Asangahita. So Khandha Sanghayana Asangahita, unclassified using the classification of aggregates, becomes the consciousness aggregate, right? It's very easy. Then Ayatana Sanghayana Asangahita also. So having this, we have to move to the Ayatana Sanghayana Asangahita, unclassified using the classification of bases. So Ayatana Sanghayana Asangahita, the answer again, it's the consciousness, right? Which means this consciousness, it's classified in the mind base, right? The mind base. So then we move to the other part, which is Dhatu Sanghayana Asangahita. So for Dhatu Sanghayana Asangahita, again, the same set of dhammas which comes here, the consciousness, right? So they are classified in the 7 mind elements, right? So that becomes the second year dhamma. So I drew it here, year dhamma. So yeah, that's how we derive the second year dhamma. Yes, those.
OK， 好，我们来看一下第二个问题。那我们首先得到 Dehita Mehita 的内容呢，其实第一个一打嘛，它的内容呢，其实色受想行蕴和涅槃。那接下来我们基于此要去找到第二个业达嘛。那首先以蕴摄非摄的方式，我们来去判断那些法是什么呢？这4种的蕴和涅槃，它们以蕴摄呢，除了涅槃以外，被包含在4种的蕴之中。非摄于这4种的蕴呢，即是10蕴。那非摄于那10蕴呢，即是89种的心。接下来以处摄非摄，我们再去判断那些法有哪些可以成立呢？那89首先呢，Dehita Mehi 它的内容以处摄是包含在哪些处之中呢？色蕴、受蕴、想蕴和涅槃，它们呢被归纳为11种的处之中，即是10种的色处和法处。那非摄于这11种处的呢，即是意处。刚刚得到的89种心呢，它被包含在意处之中。好，进一步的以戒摄非摄的方式来去判断。首先，4种的蕴和涅槃，它包含在哪些界呢？它们被包含在11种的界之中，那即是10种的粗的色界和法界。非摄于这11种界的内容呢，即是剩下的7种的10界。那哪些法刚刚得到的89种心，哪些属于70界呢？89种心全部属于70界。因此，我们得到第二个耶达玛的内容呢，就是89种的心。OK， Pandey。
Yes, sir. Yes. So the third part of the question, it's very easy. So it asks questions on how many aggregates, how many bases, under how many elements are those states are unclassified, right? So just so te dhamma katehi kandehi katehi ayatanehi katehi dhatuhi asangahita. So the answer, it says te dhamma chatuhi kandehi ekadasahi ayatanehi ekadasahi ekadasahi dhatuhi asangahita. Right, so te dhamma, which means this consciousness, right? So chatuhi kandehi, which means four aggregates, right? 4 aggregates. So what are those 4 aggregates? Now here we have the consciousness, which means the 4 aggregates excluding the consciousness aggregate. Then ekadasahi ayatanehi, which means under 11 aggregates, 11 bases. So that is the excluding the mind base. Excluding mind base. And then ekadasai dhatuhi, which means under 11 elements. So that is excluding 7 mind elements, right? So that's how we get the answer for this third group. Yes.
好，我们看一下第三个问题。第三个问题问到，上述的这些法，即是我们得到的第二个耶达玛89种心，它非摄于哪些的运处界呢？答案是它非摄于4种运、11种处和11种界。89种心呢，它是属于10运，所以呢，它非摄于除了10运之外剩下的4种运。那89种心呢，它属于异处，所以呢，它非摄于除了异处之外剩下的11种处。89种心呢，以界而言属于70界，所以它非摄于除了70界以外剩下的11种界，即是10种的粗的色界和法界。OK, Pandit.
Yes. So any questions? Can ask. Thanks. No questions. It's easy. Now you all can teach me. Yeah, it's like that. So nice. Okay, so we move to the next group, which is the Chakkayatana. So Chakkhayatanena ye dhamma kanda sanghahena sanghita ayatana sanghahena sanghita dhatu sanghahena sanghita te dhammehi ye dhamma kanda sanghahena sanghita ayatana sanghahena asanghita dhatu sanghahena sanghita te dhamma katihi kandehi katihi ayatanehi katihi dhatuhi asanghita te dhamma chatuhi kandehi dvihayatanehi attahi dhatuhi asanghita. So for Chakkayatana, which means the eye base, right? So eye base, the Chakkuprasada Rupa, that becomes the state of inquiry. So first you have to get the Khanda Sangha and Asanghita unclassified using the classification of aggregates. So for eye base, it belongs to the matter aggregate, which means the it's classified in the matter aggregate. So the rest of 4, the other 4 becomes the unclassified, right? So that is the, can write it easily, the 4 mental aggregates, right? 4 mental aggregates, and also the Nibbana. So that is Khanda Sanghahena Asanghita. So after that we move to the Ayatana Sanghahena Asanghita, which means the unclassified using the classification of elements. So again, this eye base in the classification of the bases, it's classified under eye base, right? The 4 mental aggregates and the Nibbana, they are classified in the ideation element and also the mind base, ideation. Ideation. Okay, I think I made a mistake. I don't know. Okay, so it's unclassified in the classification in the elements in the in the bases. It's unclassified, this 4 mental aggregate and the Nibbana. So they are classified in the mind base and the ideation element. So the same set of dhammas become the dhammas which are unclassified using the classification of which are unclassified by the eye base, right? So for the Ayatana Sanghahena Sanghita, it becomes the four mental Vinkeva and the Nibbana, right? Right. Then we have the we have the Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita. So Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita means the unclassified using the classification of elements. Again, this same set of dhammas are applicable here, right? The four mental aggregates and the nibbana, right? So the same dhammas here. And the nibbana. So this becomes the first dhamma. Yes.
好，接下来我们看一下第五法的第四组的内容。那以Dhatukatha眼处为例，那眼处呢就是哪一种的究竟法呢？它属于眼镜色这样的一种究竟法。好，那在确定了探究的主题之后呢，我们基于眼触色来去判断。第一个的耶达玛是什么呢？那首先以韵色非色的方式，我们来去判断。那眼触色它属于哪一种韵呢？属于色韵。非色于色韵的韵呢是哪些呢？即是剩下的四明韵和涅槃。那我们首先得到呢，这时的那些法呢，可以是四种的明韵和涅槃。那接下来以触色非色，我们来进一步的判断。首先，眼触色如果以触而言，摄于哪一种触呢？那即是眼触这一种触。非摄于眼触呢，即是剩下的11种触。刚刚得到的四明韵和涅槃，哪些可以被包含在这11种触之中呢？我们得到都可以被包含在这11种触之中。那其实它可以被包含在法处和义处之中。好，那接下来以界色非色，我们进一步来判断。首先，眼触色属于哪一种界呢？它属于眼界。那除了非摄于眼界，那其实除了眼界之外，剩下的17种界。好，那上述我们得到了四明韵和涅槃，哪些包含在这17种界之中呢？我们得到所有的这四明韵和涅槃呢，都可以被包含在17界的范围之内。所以我们得到第一个耶达玛的内容呢，就是四明韵加上涅槃。
Right. So we move to the second part of the question, which is Te Dhammehi. Te Dhamme. So that becomes the subject of the second part of the question, four mental aggregates and the Nibbana. So we have to get the Khanda Sangahena Sangahita, which is the unclassified using the classification of the aggregates. So we have the four mental aggregates and the Nibbana here. So the Khanda Sangahena Sangahita, it becomes the matter aggregate, right? Then we move into the next part of the question. Next part of the, no, I'm sorry, we move to the next phrase, Ayatana Sangahena Sangahita. So we have to consider the four mental aggregates and Nibbana as the subject of this part of the question, and we have the matter aggregate, right? So in the matter aggregate, we know there are 28 matter, right? And here four mental aggregates and Nibbana from this side, right? So four mental aggregates and Nibbana, from the four mental aggregates and the Nibbana in the classification of the bases, the four mental aggregates, the consciousness base aggregate is classified in the mind base, and the other three mental aggregates and the Nibbana, so they are classified in the classification of the ideation base. So in the ideation base, in addition to those dhammas, right, there are 16 subtle matter, right, which are classified from the three mental aggregates and the Nibbana. And because of that, the 12 gross matter, right, the 12 gross matter becomes the 12 gross matter becomes the dhammas which are unclassified using the classification of bases, right? So that is the right. So you get the twelve gross matter here, and it is the same regarding the Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita, right? Unclassified using the classification of the bases, right? So we get the 12 gross matter here, right? So which is that becomes the second year Dhamma, the second those states in this question. Yes, sir.
好，接下来我们看一下第二个问题。那首先对于第二个问题的探究的内容，得黑达美黑，它的内容呢就是刚刚得到的第一个耶达嘛4种的明运和涅槃。好，那接下来基于这些内容呢，我们来去判断以飞射的方式得到第二种的耶达嘛是哪些。首先以运射、飞射，我们来去判断。对于四明运和涅槃，如果以运射而言呢，它们属于哪些运呢？就是四明运。那飞射与四明运呢，即是剩下的就是色运就是所有的28种色法。那再接下来我们以触射、飞射的方式来去判断。那四明运和涅槃以触射的方式可以包含在哪些处呢？它们可以被归纳在法处和意处。那飞射与法处和意处即是剩下的10种的粗的色处。刚刚得到的28种色法的色蕴，哪些可以包含在10种的粗的色处之中呢？我们得到12种的粗色可以包含在10种的粗的色处之中。同样的，接下来以借射、飞射的方式，我们去判断四明运和涅槃，它们可以摄于法界和七十界。那飞射于法界和七十界呢，我们得到10种的粗的色界。刚刚得到的12种粗色，哪些可以被包含在10种的粗的色界之中呢？所有的12种粗色都可以被包含其中，因此我们得到第二个的耶达嘛，它的内容呢是12种的粗色。OK， 班队。
Yes, sir. Okay, so now we move to this third part of the question, which is easy. It says Te Dhamma Kate Kandehi Kate Hayatanehi Kate Dhatu Sangahita. So those states are under how many aggregates, under how many bases, and under how many elements are those states unclassified, right? So Te Dhamma, right? So this becomes the Te Dhamma, the 12 gross matter, right? So the answer, it says Chatuhi Kandehi Asangahita, right? So what are those four aggregates? We have the matter aggregate here, right? The 12 gross matter. So the other, so excluding matter, we can say the mental aggregates. Then it says Vihi Ayatanehi Asangahita. So it's unclassified under two elements, which is the mind element, right? Because the 12 gross matter, the mind element is separated, and the again we have the ideation element as well, right? And then it says Attahi Dhatuhi. Attahi Dhatuhi means under 8 elements. So again we have 7 mind elements and the ideation element, right? So that's how we derive the answer for method number 4. Yes, sir.
好，我们来看一下第三个问题。那第三个问题问到那上述我们得到的这些法其实贝达玛呢，它指代的是第二个耶达玛，它的内容呢就是12种的粗色。 那这12种的粗色，它非摄于哪些的运处界呢？答案是非摄于4种运、2种处和8种界。哪4种运？OK，班队。
Hope you explain it. Yes. So did you explain it also?
Yes, already finished, 班队。
Oh, okay. There's a problem with my connection. Right. So now we move to the group number 5, which is the state of inquiry is Namarupa Pachaya Salayatanena. So Namarupa Pachaya Salayatanena means conditioned by mentality, corporeality are 6 bases. So the Salayatana here becomes the 6 bases, right? 6 bases. So for 6 bases, we have the 5 pasada rupa and also the consciousness base, right? The consciousness base also. So we have the chakku, the eye base, and the other 4, and also the consciousness base, right? So the 5 bases, they belong to the matter aggregate. The 6th base, it belong to the consciousness aggregate. Right, so we move to this one, Khanda Sangahena Asangahita. So Khanda Sangahena Asangahita means unclassified using the classification of aggregates. So we get the feeling aggregate, right? We get the feeling aggregate. We have the perception aggregate. We have the mental formation aggregate, and we have the nibbana as well, right? We don't consider the vijnana, right? The consciousness, because it's in the state of inquiry. Then we get the ayatana sanghayana asangahita, which means unclassified using the classification of elements. So these 6 bases, the consciousness base, it's the mind base, and the other 5 bases, chakku, sota, ghana, jivha, and kaya, so they are separate bases, right? Eye base, etc. So they are in separate bases. So this same set of dhammas, feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana, so it comes here as well, right? We get feeling, perception, mental formation, and nibbana, right? So for dhatu sanghayana asangahita also, so it's the same set of dhammas, right? Same set of dhammas which come here, right? So that becomes the first tier dhamma, right? Feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. This becomes the first state, tier dhamma, those states, right? Yes, sir.
接下来我们看一下第五法的第5组的内容，以 Nama Rupa Pacaya Salayatana 为代表。那首先我们要判断这里的 Nama Rupa Pacaya Salayatana 它指的是什么呢？那它主要指代的是在这里作为元所生法的 Salayatana 6处的内容，是作为这一个被探究的内容。 那萨赖丹那它是什么呢？那就是我们通常所讲的六处。哪六处呢？它们分别是眼、耳、鼻、舌、身处，还有一个意处。眼、耳、鼻、舌、身处呢，它们是色法；意处呢，即是识蕴。那因此呢，这六处呢，以蕴而言，它们就可以被归纳为色蕴和识蕴。那基于此，我们要去判断，以非摄的方式而找到对应的耶达玛。那刚刚讲到这六处呢，它属于色蕴跟识蕴，非摄于这两种蕴呢，我们首先得到呢，耶达玛它的内容可以是受、想、行蕴和涅槃。那接下来以处摄、非摄的方式，我们来去判断这六种的处呢，即是眼耳鼻舌身意处，非摄于这六种处呢，即是剩下的色声香味触法处和色声香味触法处这六种处。刚刚得到的受想行蕴和涅槃，它们都可以被包含在法处之中。因此呢，以处摄非摄呢，我们可以得到全部的受想行蕴和涅槃都可以被归纳于其中。接下来以戒摄非摄，六处可以被归纳在哪些的戒呢？它们可以被归纳在眼耳鼻舌身戒，再加上一处的70戒、12种戒之中。非摄于这12种戒，剩下的呢，即是5种的色戒和法戒。那对于5种的色戒和法戒，刚刚得到的受想行蕴和涅槃，哪些包含于其中呢？我们得到所有的受想行蕴和涅槃都可以被包含在法戒之中。所以我们得到第一个耶达玛它的内容呢，就是受蕴、想蕴、行蕴以及涅槃。OK，班队。
Yes. So now we move to the second part of the question. So it says Te Dhammehi Ye Dhamma Khanda Sangahena Asangahita, Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, and Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita. So Te Dhammehi, so the first Te Dhamma becomes the subject of the second part of the question. So Te Dhammehi. So Ye Khanda Sangahena Asangahita, Ye Dhamma Khanda Sangahena Asangahita means we have to take this feeling, perception, mental formations, and Nibbana, and to see in which states, in which aggregates these dhammas are unclassified. So we get the matter aggregate, right? Because in this set of dhammas we don't find the matter aggregate, and also we have the consciousness aggregate. That's the Khanda Sangahena Asangahita. So then we move to the next part, which is the Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita. So Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita means unclassified using the classification of bases. So we have to take matter and consciousness and also this set of dhammas, right? So from matter, now we know feeling, perception, mental formations, and nibbana. So all of these dhammas are classified in the ideation base, right? So they are included in the ideation base. They are classified in the ideation base. So whatever the dhammas which are classified from the ideation base, among these has to be removed. So matter and consciousness. So from matter, the 16 subtle rupa, the subtle matter, they are classified using this set of dhammas. So for Ayatana Sangha and Asangahita, we only get the 12 gross matter, right? And then we have the consciousness as well, right? The consciousness, which is again the mind base, right? It's unclassified as well. So we get the Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita. To get the Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita, which is the unclassified using the classification of elements, we have the same dhammas, right? 12 gross matter and 12 gross matter, and the consciousness, right? So this becomes the second Dhamma, right? Yes.
好，我们看一下第二个问题。第二个问题，主语 Dehidammehi 呢，它是连接着前面的第一个叶达嘛，它的内容呢就是受蕴、想蕴、行蕴和涅盘。好，基于这些法呢，我们来去判断第二个叶达嘛，它的内容是什么。那以非摄的方式去进行判断。首先呢，以蕴摄、非摄。那受想行蕴涅盘呢，除了以蕴摄呢，即是除了涅盘之外，包含在受蕴、想蕴、行蕴之中。非摄于这三种的蕴呢，我们得到色蕴和识蕴这两种的蕴。那进一步的以处摄、非摄，我们来去判断。首先，对于 Dehidammehi 的受想行蕴和涅盘，它属于哪种处呢？属于法处。非摄于法处呢，即是剩下的11种处。刚刚得到的色蕴和识蕴，哪些法可以被包含在这11种处之中呢？我们要了知，这里的色蕴呢，包含28种色法。那28种色法里面呢，我们要去考虑其中的16种的细色呢，包含在法处之中，而这里呢是非摄于法处，所以呢要去除16种的细色，那我们就得到只有12种，只有在色蕴跟识蕴之中的12种粗色以及识蕴呢，被包含在这里的以处摄非摄的内容之中。那进一步的，我们以戒摄非摄的方式去进行判断。首先，受蕴、想蕴、行蕴和涅槃，它们属于哪一种戒呢？它们属于法界。非摄于法界呢，即是17种剩下的17种戒。刚刚得到的12种粗色跟识蕴，哪些属于17种的戒之中呢？我们得到它们全部都属于17种的戒之中，也就是12种的粗色呢，包含于10种的粗的色戒，10种的粗的色戒。识蕴呢被包含在7种的识戒之中，因此我们得到第二个耶达玛最终的内容呢，即是12种的粗色，还有呢识蕴。
Yes. So then we move to the third part of the question. Te dhamma katihi kandhi, katihi ayatane, katihi dhatu sanghita. So those states, so under how many aggregates, under how many bases, and under how many elements are those states unclassified? So it says te dhamma. Right. So te dhamma tihi khandehi ekena ayatanene ekaya dhatuya sanghita. So those 12 gross matter and consciousness, right? So this top 12 gross matter and consciousness. It says tihi khandehi. So, tihi khandehi means now this 12 gross matter, it belongs to the matter aggregate, and the consciousness, it belongs to the consciousness aggregate. So we have to take the rest, right? So it's the feeling, perception, and mental formations, right? So those are the three aggregates. Then we have ekena ayatanena, which means under one element. So what is this element? Right. So 12 gross matter, they belong to the 10 gross bases, and the consciousness, it belongs to which classified in the consciousness, the mind base, and we have the ideation base here, which is the unclassified one, right? So we have the ideation here. Then ekaya dhatuya, next one, ekaya dhatuya, that is also easy, straightforward. It's the ideation element which we get, right? Ekaya dhatuya sanghita. So that's how we get the answer for this fifth group number 5 in the fifth method. Yes, sir.
好，我们来看一下最后一个问题，第三个问题。那么 day 达嘛那这些法即是刚刚得到的第二个耶达嘛，12种粗色和识蕴，它们非摄于哪些的蕴处界呢？答案是它们非摄于3种的蕴、1种的处和1种的界。哪3种的处呢？首先12种的粗色跟识蕴，它们被包含在色蕴跟识蕴之中。 非摄于这两种的韵呢，即是剩下的受韵、小韵和行韵。那不包含在哪些的处呢？不包含在法处啊，因为12种的粗色和实韵呢，它们被归纳于10种的粗的色处和这个意处。那非摄于这11种处呢，那即是法处。好，那非摄于哪种的界呢？首先，12种的粗色呢，被包含在10种的粗的色界，实韵呢被包含在70界。那非摄于10种的粗的色界和70界呢，即是剩下的一种法界，所以呢，它不包含在一种的界，即是法界。
Right.
OK 吧？
Yes. So we'll move to the next group. If anybody have questions, like they can ask anytime, right? I mean, can interrupt and ask the questions. Right? No problem with that. Right. So now we move to the group number 6, which is the final one in this fifth method. So the state of inquiry is arupa bhavena. So arupa bhavena means immaterial becoming. So for immaterial becoming, the state, the associated sarupata, the paramata dhammas are the 4 immaterial resultant consciousness, right? The arupa, 4 arupa vipaka citta, 4 material resultant consciousness, and the 30 mental factors. With 30 mental factors associated with that, right? So those are the so essentially we can say it's the 4 mental aggregates and the it's the 4 mental aggregates, right? You don't have the nama dhamma here. So then we get the khanda sanghayena asanghita. So khanda sanghayena
Sorry, Bante. I have a question here. So these are
yes,
4 types of nama belong to the Vibhaga nama, right?
yeah, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, vipaka nama, yes, exactly. So we move to the next one. Khanda sanghayena asanghita, unclassified using the classification of the aggregates. So we get the 28 matter here, right? 28 matter. We can say the matter aggregate. Then we move to the next step, which is the ayatana sanghayena asangahita, unclassified using the basis. So from 28 matter, from this 28 matter, we have to now we know these 4 mental aggregates, and I mean the 4 immaterial resultant consciousness and the 30 mental factors. So the 30 mental factors, they belong to the ideation base, and because of that, out of this 28 matter, 16 are classified, right? 16 are classified using this state of inquiry. So the other 12, the 16 subtle matter are classified. So the other 12 gross matter, the other 12 gross matter, they are unclassified, right? So that's how we get the answer for ayatana sanghayena asangahita. So after that, we move to the next step, which is dhatu sanghayena asangahita, unclassified using the classification of bases, the same set of dhammas, right? Because in ideation base, ideation element, these dhammas are included. So we get the same thing, same answer for the dhatu sanghayena asangahita, which is the 12 gross matter, right? So that 12 gross matter becomes the first Dhamma, right? Yes.
So Bante, here I have a question for Dhatu Sanghahita Asangahita. So when we discussing this one, so here, since the nama for the Jida is only Vibhaga type, also it's Arupa, Arupa, comma, belong to the Arupa Vajra Vibhaga type. So when we say Asangahita, so Sayadaw Bhante, can you explain how many dhatus are not included here? So unclassified here exactly.
Yes, I mean if we straight away consider without considering these 28 matter and the 12 gross matter, if we straight away consider, say, so all these belong to the four material resultant consciousness. They belong to the Manoviññāna dhatu, right?
Yes, Bhante.
Manoviññāna dhatu, and the mental factors, they belong to the Dhamma dhatu, right? So if you look at it in that way, now we have 16 elements which are unclassified, but we cannot stand alone considering that way. We have to consider this Kanda Sangahena Asangahita, Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita, and we have to like filter these dhammas, right? We have to consider these dhammas and also this as well, right? I mean, we cannot stand alone, take these dhammas and look at to the Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita.
Yes, Bhante. What I mean here is because before when we come into the questions, usually it is a Vijnana Kanda as a group, so it includes all the Vijnana. So when we come into the Dhatu, so 7 types of Vijnana Dhatu will all be concluded into it. But here, when we're talking about Arupa Bhavina, then the Nama, especially for the Jada type, it is just specifically only refer to the Arupa Vibhaga type. So that's why, I mean, when we come into the unclassified into the Dhatu, we need to mention it is quite different from before. But the answer will not be affected.
Yeah. No, I mean, no. So we have to like, it's like first we get the answer for this one, the 28 matter, and then we have to come to this one. Then we have to go to the Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita. So we don't need to mention it. I mean, if you mentioned it, it's going to become wrong. So you have to only consider this part.
No, Bhante. I mean, when we do Dhatu Sangahena here, so firstly we need to understand which Dhatu here, Arupa Bhavina is classified into.
Yes.
So when we discern this one, then we need to do Asangahita. Then we get, so here it is 16 Dhatu, not like before.
No, it's not 16 now. So like we have the four.
So here should be 16 Dhatu, right? And
no, just now this is now format. This is Manoviññāna dhatu, right? Okay. Manoviññāna dhatu, the four material, four immaterial resultant consciousness. So this is the ideation. Okay, we'll write in Pali, right? Mano dhatu. This is Mano dhatu. Like that you have to take, right? So now, I mean, when you are considering the Asangahita, right? We cannot stand alone take this and say like 16 in the 16 elements, these dhammas are unclassified. We cannot.
No, but what I mean is we got 16 dhatus, then we consider inside these 12 types of gross matter, gross rupa, what are belong to 16 types of dhatu. We should consider in this way.
Oh yes, we can take it in that way, no problem.
Yes, no that's problem. What I want to say.
It's, I mean, it's quite easy. I would say it's quite easy because
yes,
like we only have to consider this, what do you mean? This 12 gross matter, right? Only the 12 gross matter. And look at, we have to compare these two. It's easy. Yes, sir.
OK，把它 translate 啊。好，那么接下来我们看一下第六组的内容啊。那么第六组的内容呢，它探讨的主题呢是阿รูป巴维那啊，即是无色有。那什么是在这里无色有所指代的究竟法的内容呢？它即是指代着4种的无色界的果报心及其相应名法，即是30种的心所法。那如果以运而言呢，它们即是对应于4名运啊，即是色受想行运即是受想行运呢，以及识运这4种的名运。好，基于此，我们来去以飞驰的方式得到第一个耶达玛。首先呢，kanda sangha hena asangha heda，以运舍飞舍的方式，我们来去判断。那不包含在4名运之中的是哪些法呢？即是28种的色法，色运，所有的色运，这是我们首先得到的那些法的内容。那再接下来，我们以触舍飞舍的方式来去判断。首先，阿如巴巴维那无色有，它这所指代的这些究竟法、心法、心所法，包含在哪些的处呢？包含在意处跟法处。非摄于这2种处是哪些呢？即是10种的粗的色处。那28种我们刚刚得到的色法，哪些包含在10种的粗的色处之中呢？我们得到12种的粗色，它属于可以被归纳在10种的这个粗的色处之中。因此，我们得到在这里呢，它的耶达玛的内容呢，缩小到12种的粗色。再进一步的，我们以戒舍非舍的方式来去归纳。那无色有这些的名运，它属于哪些的界呢？它被包含在法界和意识界之中。那需要注意的是，也是刚刚有问到班德的。那这里呢，因为它所针对的名法的时运的范围呢，不像之前一样，它广泛的包含所有的时运，它是特定的某一些的时运。所以当来到界的时候呢，它不能够是包含所有的世界，它只是单独的意识界。所以这里呢，如果是阿如巴巴维那，它以界识而言呢，它只被归纳在法界和意识界之中。那好，那么如果我们以戒色非色的方式来去判断呢，那我们得到12种的粗色，哪些可以被包含在上述的16种戒之中呢？我们得到12种的粗色呢，它们被包含在10种的粗的色界之中在16种戒的范围之内。最终呢，我们得到那叶达玛它的答案呢，就是这12种的粗色。OK，班的。
So now we move into the next part of the question. Next part of the question, which is the second part, Tehi Dhammehi Yedhamma. So Tehi Dhammehi becomes the subject. It's a subject. The first Yedhamma becomes subject of the second part of the question. So Tehi Dhammehi Yedhamma Khanda Sangahena Sangahita, which means unclassified using the classification of elements. So we have the 12 gross matter as the Yedhamma. So Khanda Sangahena Sangahita means the four mental aggregates and the Nibbana. Then we move to the next one, Ayatana Sangahena Sangahita. For Ayatana Sangahena Sangahita also, it's the four mental aggregates and the Nibbana, right? Because the 12 gross matter, they are classified in the 10 bases, right? So it's the four mental aggregates and Nibbana. It's not included. So straightforward. Four mental aggregates and Nibbana. Then we move to the third part, right? Third part is Dhatu Sanghahena Sanghita, which is unclassified using the classification of elements. So that is the same set of dhammas, right? Because 12 gross matter, they are classified in the 12 gross elements. I'm sorry, 10 gross elements. So we have the 4 mental aggregates and then the Nibbana. So that becomes the Yedhamma here, right? The second Yedhamma. Yes, sir.
好，我们来看一下第二个问题啊，dehi damehi。那这里呢，既是对应于第一个耶达嘛，它的内容呢是12种的粗色。好，接下来以韵摄非摄。那这12种粗色它属于色韵，非摄于色韵呢，我们得到受想行识四明韵和涅槃。那接下来以处摄非摄，12种粗色呢，它属于10种的粗的色处。非摄于这10种的粗的色处呢，即是2种的处，意处和法处。那上述的四明韵和涅槃呢，它们可以被包含在这2种处之中，所以全部的都可以包含在以处摄非摄之中。接下来以戒摄非摄，那12种粗色，那dehi damehi呢，它是属于10种的粗的色界之中。非摄于这10种粗的色界呢，我们得到的答案呢是8种的界，也就是法界和7种的意识界。那刚刚确定的受想行识四明韵和涅槃呢，都可以被包含在法界和意识界之中。因此呢，我们得到第二个耶达玛，它的内容呢，即是四明韵加上涅槃。
Then we move into the third part of the question, which is easy. Te dhamma katihi kandehi, katihi ayatanehi, katihi dhatuya sanghita. So those states says like under how many aggregates, under how many elements, under how many bases, under how many elements are those states are classified. So te dhamma, right? So keep the te dhamma here. Te dhamma ekena khandena. So it's unclassified under one aggregates, right? So we have 4 mental aggregates and Nibbana here. So it's the matter aggregate, right? Matter aggregate, which these dhammas are unclassified. Then it says dasahayatanehi, right? So dasahayatanehi means under 10 elements. So those are those 10, I'm sorry, the 10 bases. So 10 gross bases, and dasahi dhatuhi under 10 elements. So those are those 10 gross elements, right? So that's how we derive the answer for this one, the 6th, group number 6.
好，我们来看一下最后的一个问题，第3个问题。那最后的问题呢是dehi dhamma，就是刚刚得到的第2个耶达玛，即是四明韵和涅槃，它们非摄于哪些的韵处界呢？答案是它们非摄于1种的韵、10种的处和10种的界。那非摄于1种的处呢？那即是四明韵和涅槃，它们非摄于色处。好，那四明韵和涅槃，它们是以界而言呢，以处而言呢，它们可以被归纳在法处跟意处之中。即是所有的心所法，那是受蕴、想蕴、行蕴呢属于法处。那识蕴的话呢，属于意处；涅槃的话呢，属于法处。所以它们都可以被包含在法处跟意处之中。那因此，非摄于哪些的处呢？就是除了这2种处之外的剩下的10种的粗的色处。那以界摄而言，它们非摄于哪些的界呢？ 日明运和涅槃，它们被归纳为一种的法界和7种的实界。非摄于这8种的界呢，即是剩下的10种的粗的色界。所以我们得到答案呢，这些法呢，它们非摄于1种的处、10种的界、非摄于1种的运、10种的处以及10种的界。
So, if there are any questions, you can ask me.
大家还有什么问题吗？So, but I just want to mention. So here, I think the number 6, the group 6, is quite different from before. Why? Because here, when it try to classify the nama for the Jida Dhamma, so this Jida Dhamma cannot be classified into all the 7 types of Vijnana Dhatu. It only classified into the Vijnana Dhatu. That's why when we are doing the Asangahita, we need to go a little bit clear to mention when do Asangahita it is not included in by how many dhatus. That's why I just mentioned not included by 16 dhatus.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, so I will now I will go to mention few details from the commentary which explain why some dhammas are not considered in this method, right? So I will write it down. Okay, right, Khanda Sangahena Sangahita. I'm sorry, it's Asangahita, right? Khanda Sangahena Asangahita. Then we have Ayatana Sangahena Asangahita. Then we have Dhatu Sangahena Asangahita. So in the commentary it says that there are if some dhammas if the states of inquiry it includes all the 5 aggregates, so those type of dhammas are not been included in this discourse, in this 5th method, right? So the example given is dukkha satcha. Dukkha satcha, right? So regarding dukkha satcha, what happened? Now it takes all 5 aggregates, right? All 5 aggregates are included. So what becomes Khanda Sangha and Asangahita, which means unclassified using the classification of aggregates, only the Nibbana, right? Only the Nibbana is unclassified using the classification of aggregates. And what happened is that now we know Nibbana, it's in the ideation base, right? It's included, it's classified in the ideation base. So Dukkha Satcha, in part of the Dukkha Satcha, in the ideation base, we find the part of Dukkha Satcha, right? Which is the subtle matter, right? Then we have 51 mental factors excluding lobha, right? So those are included in the classification of the Dukkha Satcha, right? I mean, Dukkha Satcha it's included in the ideation base, right? So these are also included in the ideation base. So what happened is that by this set of dhammas, the Nibbana is classified. So this Nibbana is not unclassified by the classification of the bases, right? So same with the classification of elements. So because of that, this the state of inquiry, which like Dukkha Satcha, which takes 5 aggregates. So these types of dhammas are not being discussed, it's not included in the 5th method. Yes.
好，我们来看一下，本的有进一步的解释呢，就是在译注之中提及有一些的法呢，它不会被在第五法当中被提及，那即是以非设的方式呢，他们不会被提及。第一种情形呢，在这里被讨论的就是全部的五蕴呢，它不可以作为被探究的法的主题，为什么呢？在这里，我们以Dhātukathā 苦地的内容为例。那苦地呢，它包含有全部的五种的蕴。那如果我们就按照以处摄非摄、以蕴摄非摄、处摄非摄、界摄非摄的方式来去进行判断，我们看是否能够进行推演呢？那首先以处摄非摄，那对于Dhātukatha 全部的五蕴而言，哪些法不被包含在这五蕴之中呢？我们得到涅槃它不包含在这五蕴之中。那涅槃如果以处摄而言，它包含在哪一种处呢？涅槃呢，它被包含在法处之中。那法处之中还包含有哪些的法呢？还包含有16种的微细色以及51种的心所法。那如果以处摄非摄，我们来去考虑一下，那因为这所有的16种的细色和51种的心所呢，它们本身又被包含在这个苦地之中。那所以我们当来到以处摄非摄的时候呢，就会出现矛盾。换言之呢，对于这个苦地，它以处摄而言呢，它本身就包含有所有的处，已经包含有全部的12种处。那如果以处摄非摄的方式而言呢，在12处之外呢，我们就没有办法找到其他的处。界呢也是同样的原因。But I have a question here.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, can we directly say, because when we're talking about the khanda, Dhātukathā, including in all the khandas, but excluding this 5 khanda, we can also find Dhamma, which means we can also find Nibbana, which means Nibbana is not included into the 5 khandas. So if we do khanda asangahina, we can get only one Dhamma, Nibbana. But for Ayadana and Dhatu, this compound, we cannot find extra Dhamma, which means even Nibbana are included into Ayadana and Dhatu. So that's why when we cannot analyze the Dukkha Sajja by Ayadana Asangahita and also Dhatu Asangahita, because excluding this Dhamma, we cannot find any other Dhamma. For example, when we do Ayadana Sangahina, because Dukkha Sajja, when we do, it will be classified into all the 12 Dhatus, 12 Ayadanas. So that's why we cannot say Asangahita, because excluding 12 Ayadana, we cannot find any other Dhammas.
Yeah, we can say like that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So the other type of Dhamma which is explained is like Anidassana Appatiga. So with the Anidassana Appatiga, so in this Anidassana Appatiga, it includes the consciousness and also the subtle matter. And also it includes Does it include the, I have forgot it, does it include the mental factors? Anidasa Napatiga. Okay, let me check from my book.
But it's a Dhamma excluding the Rupa.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. So it includes the subtle matter also. So we have the 52 mental factors also. So it's like that. So here also, like, I mean, all 5 aggregates are included, right? We have the consciousness aggregate, it's classified. Then from subtle matter, the matter aggregate is classified. The 52 mental factors, it's the other 3 mental aggregates, excluding the consciousness. So all 5 aggregates are classified here as well. Right? So this is the other example given, right? It's not a special case, it's just an example given. Yeah. So the dhammas, yeah. Yes. So in this kind of dhammas, it's not considered. It's the other example given, right? It's not different from what we from the 5 aggregates. Here also the 5
Yes,
aggregates are included.
Yes.
Yes,
好，
sir.
那在这里呢，第二种的情况呢，在译注之中提及的呢是阿尼达萨那，阿巴迪嘎，什么呢？就是不可见的，那些无对。那它的内容呢，就是指代的像所有的心法、所有的心所法以及某些的色法。那这里呢，这种情形呢，那我们看到它所包含的范围，如果以蕴而言呢，也是涵盖了全部的五蕴，所以它与刚刚所提到的以杜卡萨扎为例呢，它并没有太多的区别那只是以不同的方式而去进行表达。实际上指的呢，也是这里所探究的法呢，它不可能包含全部的五蕴的范围。OK， Bante.
Yes, so if you have any questions, you all can ask me.
And can you do the analysis for the second condition? Because I think it is different from the first type. Why? Because when we do the second one, Abhidhamma, when we do Asanga, Ayatana Asangahita and Dhatu Sangahina Asangahita will be a little bit different.
Different, right?
Yes,
okay, let me see.
It will be some conflict happen. That's why we cannot use it.
Now this is the consciousness aggregate. Right. Then subtle matter is the matter aggregate. So this one is, we have the feeling, perception, and the mental formations. So it's the same, right? Because all 5 aggregates.
For the rupa, so can you explain what types of rupa are included in this compound of Abhidhamma?
This one, right?
Yes. So
16 rupa, sukuma rupa, subtle matter.
how about the other rupas? Is it possible?
No, also it's like now if when you take the subtle matter in your state of inquiry, and when you classify it, the full Rupa Khandha, it's considered to be classified by that. So the other 12 Rupa, other 12 gross matter are not considered as unclassified.
Which I mean for Abhidhamma, it just mentioned refer to 16 types of Rupa.
Appatiga, yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Bande. So by this way, then we will find by Khandha Sanghina Asangahita, we can only get the Nibbana. But when we do the Ayatana Sanghina Asangahita, we will get different answers.
Yeah, I mean the Nibbana and the some part of these states of inquiry, they fall into the same base, which is the ideation base.
Yes. So by the Asangahita, we can get it should be the other 10 types of gross Rupa Ayatana. And also Nibbana cannot be classified into these 10 types of gross Ayatana Rupa. So there will be a conflict. That's why we cannot use this one.
Yes.
So, can I translate?
Yeah, sure.
那这是在这里呢，对于第二种的不可见的无对呢，它指的修净法的内容呢是89种心、52种心色和16种的细色。当我们对这种的法去进行判断的时候呢，首先如果以运摄、非摄的方式，我们得到的呢是涅槃；而当以触摄、非摄的时候呢，我们得到那这些法呢，以触摄而言，它们非摄在10种的粗的色处，而涅槃呢，它不可能出现在10种粗的色处之中，所以到这里的时候呢，就会发生冲突和矛盾，没有办法继续进行。所以呢，这是对于第二种的不可见的这个无对呢，它是不可能成立的。OK， 吧。
No questions. Yes. Okay, so we'll wind up the class. So I'm not sure whether I can do the class on this weekend, because now next week we are supposed to start the method number 6, and for method number 6 we need to prepare some notes. Of course, it's not it's quite quite descriptive, and I need to prepare some notes. And if I can do it and prepare all the notes, I will inform you, and we'll have the class in this weekend. If not, we'll do maybe during the next someday in the next weekday, one of the weekdays, maybe next Thursday, we'll be able to do it.
Okay, Bande. Sadhu.
So we'll share merits. Okay, so we'll share merits which we accumulated during the last 1.5 hours by teaching the supreme words of our Lord Buddha. So from this Kusala Kamma, not teaching only, that reflecting, learning is the words. So may from this Kusala Kamma, may this Kusala Kamma be a supportive factor for us to attain Nibbana. May this Kusala Kamma be a supportive for our teachers, our parents, and other relatives and other donors to attain Nibbana. May this Kusala Kamma be a supportive factor for all the beings in this world and the other worlds to attain Nibbana. So may all the beings in this world and the other worlds be happy, healthy, and peaceful. So with this wish, we'll recite the final stanzas from the Abhidhamma commentary and share the merits. Yang pattang kusalang tassa anubhavena panino sabbe saddhamma rajassa ñatva dhammang sukhavahang papunantu visuddhaya sukaya patipattiya asoka manupayasang nibbana sukhamuttamang chirang tittatu saddhammo dhamme hontu sagarva sabbepi satta kadena samma devo pavassatu yatarakkinsu purana surajanu tatevimang raja rakkatu dhammena attanova pajang pajang imaya dhammanu dhamma patipattiya buddhang pujemi imaya dhammanu dhamma patipattiya dhammang pujemi imaya dhammanu dhamma patipattiya sanghang pujemi addhaimaya patipattiya jati jara vyadhi maranam ha parimuccissami idang me punyang asavakkaya vahang hotu idang me punyang nibbanassa paccayo hotu mama punya bhagang sabba sattanang bhajemi te sabbe me samang punya bhagang labhantu buddha sasanang chirang titthatu buddha sasanang chirang titthatu buddha sasanang chirang titthatu sadhu sadhu sadhu
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for Buddhist teaching. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you
Thank
for
you very much,
listening.
Bante. Sadhu, sadhu.